What's up, guys? I wanted to take a few minutes and just explain some of the whys behind CrossFit. Like, what is CrossFit? Why do we do it? Why the movements that we do, that sort of thing. So, to summarize CrossFit in as few words as possible would be to say that CrossFit is constantly varied, functional movements executed at a high intensity. So, constantly varied, functional movements executed at a high intensity. So, constantly varied. What is this one? This is simply the creator of CrossFit. His name is Greg Glassman. He feels that any routine is going to create weaknesses and limitations in your training. CrossFit was one of the original main implementations of it was for firemen, policemen, military, those sorts of things. And they, there's no routine with that. It doesn't work where it's like, okay, Tuesday at 6 o'clock, you're going to need to pull someone out of wherever. And then on Friday at 9 p.m., you're going to need to push someone overhead. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you need to be ready to do anything at any time. Run, jump, swim, push, pull, squat, deadlift, whatever it is. So, constantly varied. Routine is the enemy, is the sort of thing. So that's why we don't do the same lifts every day. We don't always squat Monday. We don't always deadlift Thursday. Like, they mix and match. They're on different days. Some days we do mostly strength training. Some days we do mostly cardio training. Then it's always throughout the week it changes. So that's why we're always changing what we're doing, keeping that variety in it. I mean, from a personal standpoint, it makes it fun. You're not stuck with the same Monday, Wednesday, Friday back and buys, Tuesday, Thursday chest and tris. Sprinkle in some legs every now and then. It's you're getting the full body, a full work of training. So that's the constantly varied. That's what we're trying to do. We're always mixing it up, and that's why some people will say, "Oh, I didn't come because I'm not good at this." Well, that's probably exactly what you should be doing. If you do too much if you only do the things you're good at, you're not getting that variety. And actually doing the things that you're bad at will make you better at everything else as well. So remember that. If you see something, a movement, a day where you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can do that. I hate that movement, whether it's overhead squats or running or whatever it is, that's exactly the day you should be coming in. Functional movements. So for these, there's a couple different things with the functional movement. One is like everyday motions, right? So squatting is basically sitting and standing. Sorry, I'm kind of scribbling here, but sitting and standing. So squatting, that's what that is, right? The idea with that is, hey, by the time you're 90 years old, we don't want you using a walker. We don't want you in a wheelchair. We want you independent, be able to sit down and stand up off the toilet on your own. One of the number one reason that people end up in a old folks home is they lose their independence, their freedom. They don't have the strength to walk around or move on their own, and they need assisted living. So that's part of why we do some of these movements is to, sure, there's aesthetics things, people always come in here because they want to look better, but really it's about quality of life and being able to use your joints and have them be healthy. And so that's, that's also why we do full range of motion in our squats. That's why we tell you to sit down as low as you can when you do the squat. We want your body to be able to do that on its own without any assistance. So deadlifting, that's another one that's, the deadlift is picking something up. Picking things up. This could be a kid, a grandkid. you know, maybe you're needing to pick up a log, or I don't know. I mean, just like groceries. I mean, everyday things. No matter what it is, you know, that's when you, the same way that you approach a barbell for deadlifting, that's how you should pick things up so that you're not putting your back at risk. Yeah, so that's where the functional movements come in. They're everyday movements. On top of that, though, they are the highest power output movements. And what that means is force times distance. So power equals force times distance over time. I think, or is that? I don't remember the exact symbol for power. But anyways, power is force times distance over time. And we want these high power output movements to maximize our workouts. So the functional movements, it's not just that they're everyday movements, it's that they are the best at eliciting a high power output, which increases our results. So at deadlift, you're moving a large load, distance, a long way, and quickly, right? So a 300-pound deadlift is going to do a lot more for you than a 500-pound calf raise, to give an example, right? So force times distance over time, that's what we're looking for to create power output, and that's a big reason why we choose the functional movements that we do. Pull-ups, that sort of thing. That's a pull-up, you're doing a lot longer distance, a lot larger load, and you're generally doing it quicker than a bicep curl. They work the same muscle groups, or pull-ups actually work more, but you're getting a lot more out of that movement. So that's kind of the reasoning behind most of these motions. High intensity, I kind of touched on that just now. We want high intensity because CrossFit feels that intensity equals results. So the higher the intensity, the better. So that's why we're doing things quickly, heavier load, that sort of thing. Basically, the higher the power output, so power equals force times distance over time, which equals intensity, which equals results. So the higher the intensity is, the better the results we're going to see from our workout. So we want to keep it constantly varied. We use functional movements because not only are they good for everyday life, but they are the best at eliciting a positive response and stimulus for our bodies. And we want to try and do it at high intensity so that we can improve. Fitness is something that we want to be able to measure and track. And so the intensity is kind of where we do that, where we keep the time, we keep track of the load, and we measure that. So that is kind of a very brief explanation, CrossFit in a nutshell. I'm going to start doing some more of these talks, so stay tuned for the next one. If you have questions about this, please comment below, let me know what you think, and we'll see you soon.